Hi, so this is an induction for our Gym Gear T97 Treadmill. It's just a quick video to show you some of the key features of the machine, how to make the best use of it, and also a little bit on the maintenance and aftercare of the machine as well. The machine itself is very simple to use. So for example, on the display here, you've got various preset programs down the left, such as target, rolling, valley, things like that. As the screen just flicks through, you can see where the speeds and inclines are going to change, just to offer a bit of workout variety. In terms of what most people will do, just get in on and go. It's just a case of pressing that green button there. The machine will count down and then it will start at the minimum speed. So as you can see, it's very slow, and then it's up to you as to how you want to increase the speed or increase the incline. The ways that you can do that, again, are nice and simple. So there's quite a few different options. The right hand side of the display is all based on speed. The left hand side is based on incline. So for example, you can do it the typical way, which is holding this button, and as you can see, the increments are in 0.1s. Now that can be quite slow if you want to jump from perhaps a very slow speed up to a decent speed. The way you can do that nice and easily is there are preset buttons here. So for example, these are speed, so for example that's going to take me straight up to 6. If I want to do the same at this side, I can perhaps go from an incline of 0 straight up to an incline of 4. So again, you've got your up and downs. Now when it comes to actually running on the machine, sometimes if you start pressing the buttons on the display, it can interrupt your stride pattern. The way around that, whether it's incline or speed, is we've got these toggles here. These are really heavy duty, so even if someone is giving them a good whack, it won't matter. So these just allow you to replicate what these buttons do here. So for example, you can just tap it to bring the incline down. The same here, we can either move the speed down or up. Again, these are only minor increments in 0.1s. But that gives you an overview on that. There is a safety cord here, so we do recommend that that is positioned onto your belt. And that will be set so that, for example, if someone is in trouble and the machine's going too fast for them, they end up too far near the back of the machine where they could run the risk of falling off. In theory, if that's set to the right length, that will automatically trigger, which will stop the machine and the emergency will kick in. So it's just a safety mechanism, but ultimately it's to do with having that clipped onto your waist so that you're nice and safe. In terms of some of the more specific tests and programs, when it comes to certain markets that we work with, for example the fire and the police, they have specific fitness tests that they need to perform and be assessed by as part of their jobs. So we've gone a step further by having these tests pre-programmed on this treadmill. The way to access them is where it says fitness test here, there's a green tick. By pressing that, you then start to get several options. So for example, number 1 is the chest to fire walk test. We've also got the police equivalent, and the final, the third test on here is the DIFO test, which is a running test for the police as well. So literally it's just a case of selecting which one you want to do. So for example, we're going to go with number 1, which is a chest to walk test, and then it'll start, and it also gives you a profile as to what's going to happen. All the prompts are there. So at the moment we're doing a 2-minute warm-up, which is illustrated at the top. All the prompts will keep coming up, so when you do the test, you know exactly what's going to come next, whether the test is going to start, whether it's going to go from perhaps 0% incline up to 3, 6, 9 and 12. It's also indicated on here as well, so you can see what's going to come and roughly the time segments as well. So the last thing we're going to go through in terms of this treadmill is just the general maintenance. There isn't a massive amount to do. It all relates to the actual running belt. The motor is all concealed by the hood, so in theory that's something that perhaps when the machines are annually serviced, that's something that our guys would look at. So when I mentioned about the running belt, there are a couple of situations that might crop up where you would use this Allen key. So for example, if the belt starts to slip when someone's using it, that's a tensioning issue, and I'll show you in a second how to address that. You might also find that the belt moves perhaps from one side to the other, which is an alignment issue. If you experience any of those, the easiest way to start to resolve it is to simply start the treadmill just at a low walking speed. The reason why we're going to do that is if I put it say on 6 kilometers an hour, when we start to make the adjustments, you'll visibly able to see the change. So for example, where we've got the treadmill belt currently aligned roughly centrally, if a scenario came about whereby the belt had moved over to the right and it was at risk of starting to rub on the side, we use our Allen key. You've got 2 holes on either end. Basically the back roller here is held in position by 2 bolts, and we can start to adjust the position of those bolts and in turn the roller by turning this Allen key. By turning it right, you've got to bring the roller out and in theory add more tension to the belt, but also, for example, if the belt's moved across to the right and we bring this roller out, it's going to recenter it. So the reason why we've got that running is so that when we just do quarter turns, so remember clockwise will bring the roller out, we can just start to see that belt move back into the centre. If the belt wasn't moving, you wouldn't know what the changes of adjusting the roller were actually doing to the machine itself. So that's how we do it. So for example, if it moved to the left, again clockwise turn, we'd be positioning this and just moving this roller out, which you would gradually see that belt moving. When I mentioned about if the belt's slipping, the way we check is again just at this speed. Perhaps just make it ever so slightly slower so it's comfortable while you're on it. What you're trying to do is force the belt to stop by holding safely this bar here and planting your foot to try and override the belt. If I can stop that belt, also it means the tension is not sufficient, and what would happen, I'm sort of 15 stone, when I'm running on this machine, when I'm planting my foot, it's going to slip, I'm not going to feel safe. So if that was happening, it would be a case of tightening up, clockwise turns, both sides of here, and ultimately bringing that roller out just ever so slightly. It adds more tension to that belt, which in turn will stop that slipping. Again, we're only doing quarter turns because we don't want to overdo it. So say for example, if that was slipping, I'd do a quarter turn each side, providing it's aligned properly. I'll be back on, nice and safely, and I'll be testing it again. If it carries on slipping, we repeat until it stops slipping, and that's basically what you do.